He spent thousands of hours studying personality type psychology, spirituality, near-death experiences. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Hypnotherapy, telepathy, physics or psychics, and mediums. I think there's a spelling error here. So let me welcome Mark, who's our first speaker.
Okay.
Have fun, buddy.
Good evening. Again, I'm Mark Becker, and I want to welcome you to a journey to enlightenment, where a better life exists outside the perimeter of our perceptions. So a lot of people don't know what enlightenment is, or at least they think they might, but they often don't. This is often a common photo that's used to project enlightenment. And these little colored lights on here are chakras, and I could spend 3 hours to you talking about enlightenment tonight, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to get into this too much. I'm going to give you kind of a 30,000-foot overview, but chakras are essentially centers of energy that are connected to the universe that affect different parts of our body, and it's really, really interesting stuff. So essentially what enlightenment is, we're all enlightened with the physical world as far as what happens to us every day, what we're taught to believe with society, as far as, as a kid you're growing up, you can do this, you can't do that, and there's all these rules, but everybody tends to think as you're growing up that everything that we see, taste, feel, touch, smell is all there is to life. And what enlightenment really is the awakening to the fact that there's far more to this life than we tend to think. And so it's really an interesting scenario, to say the least. So a good way to think of it, I think, from a metaphoric standpoint, is a multi-level building structure. So when you're first coming into this world and you're growing up, or whatever the case, we all tend to be on the bottom level, meaning that life is pretty limited because it's just within our five senses. And so if you think about, like, if you stay at the bottom floor of a hotel or whatever, there's generally a fence or a wall around the parking lot. So you're very limited on the view you can see. You can see, essentially the cars in there and the people that walk by, but your perception is pretty minimal. And then as you open your mind and you start to realize, there's more to life, and an example would be, like, you believe that there's an afterlife, okay? So that would be getting you to the second floor. Now you can see above the fence when you look out the windows here. And you can see that, maybe 100 yards away, and you can see the trees and the other buildings and that type of thing. And then as you learn more and more about this and you experience different things, you tend to jump different levels. And you can imagine as you get up to the higher floors, you can start to see spectacular views that go on for miles and miles. But the thing is, if you were to come back down to that bottom floor, it's very difficult to explain to the people that are down here the things you're seeing, because they've never seen that before. So it's really, really a whole different perspective on life. And it's really, it brings a lot of happiness, because you start to see that we're not so trapped in the prison, if you will, of life, of the grind of the daily, things that we go through. So when you're on the bottom floor, this is more like what it feels like, because you tend to be the victim, if you will, on the bottom floor. People are doing stuff to you. Your boss is being an ass, or I have to work extra overtime. Everything tends to be a scenario where you're being affected by the outside world that we can perceive. As you get closer and closer to the top, it starts to feel a whole lot more like this. And it's really the change in your mindset, because you realize there's so much more to this life than most people want to believe. I'm not here to convert anybody. So in other words, I don't care if you're Christian, Taoist, you're Muslim, whatever your religious beliefs are, atheist, doesn't matter. My personal beliefs are very strong because I've spent thousands of hours studying this stuff. I've got an insatiable appetite for learning about things, especially when it comes to why are we here, what's our purpose, what happens to us after we die. So I've been spending years like just engulfed in this stuff. And I've had very similar to a near-death experience. So I got to personally witness that a lot of the things that I've been learning are true for me. Again, it's like, you know, if you're struggling in your religion where you feel like, I don't know where to turn because I'm struggling to believe, this might be a great opportunity for you to start looking into the journey of enlightenment, because it's quite a spiritual journey. But on the other side of the coin, if you feel like, you know what, I'm very happy in my religion and this type of thing, great. That's what it's all about. We're here to experience love, to experience this life. And if you're content in where you're at, here again, I'm not here to convert you. There are things that you may not believe. And I can tell you from going up several floors on the building over the last number of years, there's things that I still struggle to believe, and I've been engulfed in this for quite a while. So as we get into this, if I say things that you just don't buy into, that's very cool. There's no problem with that at all. So a lot of you have heard of quantum physics, and what does that have to do with this? Essentially, quantum physics isn't as complicated as people tend to think. The reason it seems so complicated is because they're not able to really explain why things are happening the way they are, but they're able to use quantum physics to prove a lot of these things that are outside of our five senses are actually happening. So that's a good way to look at it from an overview standpoint. This particular photo is the double slit experiment. If you've never heard of it, essentially if you shine a flashlight on one slit, there will be one slit in the shadow behind it on the wall, right? So if there's two slits, you would expect if you shone that flashlight there'd only be two lines, but there's not. There's all these lines. And so they accidentally found this, and when they did, they were like, this doesn't make any sense because we understand how light works, and they're individual protons being thrown at this scenario, so why is it doing this? And at first they thought they might be bouncing off each other, or waves causing it or whatever. So they actually were able to shoot one proton at a time to find out, and they had the exact same pattern.
No way.
So, absolutely. So this actually opened their minds to the idea that there's a whole lot more to the world than we think there is. So this is why I put this particular photo on. One of the things they found is that everything in life is connected. They now have proof scientifically. Plants are able to communicate with each other under the ground in their, with their root systems. They know that what we're made out of, the molecules that we're made out of, are interplanetary that have been around for neons. And again, when you hear about stardust and that type of thing, they know that we're part of all that. And everything is connected. And when you start to realize that, it brings a whole different perspective on how you feel about life and your everyday living. Is there one life? Is that all there is? And here again, I'm not here to convince you otherwise, but my personal belief is there absolutely is more than one life, and we have an afterlife. And I say this because there's thousands of cases of people that have near-death experiences that describe the exact same scenarios all over the world. So there's no way this could be some kind of conspiracy. And trust me, I'm about as skeptical as it gets when it comes to information. So I'm not one to buy into anything without some serious proof or evidence. But when you start hearing thousands of stories that are all saying the same thing, in addition to the fact that there's many children, generally under the ages of 8 years old, that remember past lives, that can talk about details that are proven. So they can go back and they can literally legitimize everything that these kids are saying that have happened. And in addition to that, there's hypnotherapy, and they accidentally, way back when they were trying to help people with psychological problems, they found out that these people started talking like they're hallucinating about a life that they're not even living. And what they came to realize is that they're talking about a previous life that they lived in before. And here again, they started looking into it and finding out that they can justify or they can legitimize all these different facts, because they can name off what plane they were in, for instance, if they were in a warplane, who was their co-pilot, what was the name of the plane, where did it go down. And there's no way they could have known a lot of these details, because even with children that are under 8 years old are telling these kind of details. So it's absolutely crazy. Another big thing with enlightenment is living in the present moment. And this is so critical. There's a gentleman by the name of Eckhart Tolle, a lot of you might have heard of, wrote a great book called The Power of Now, as well as A New Earth. And he talks in very detail about the importance of living in the present moment. And essentially what that means is that most of our time is spent living in the future or living in the past, because you're worried about what am I going to do later. I'm making the kids dinner, or I'm worried about my job, or whatever the case, or I'm regretting something I did yesterday and I can't get that out of my head. So you're wasting all this time, and really all you have, if you think about it, is right now. All you have all the time is the present moment right in front of you. I'm going to give you a great example of, about a month ago, I was laying on the couch listening to a great documentary. It was like 75 degrees out, beautiful day. And I was really struggling because I was feeling guilty. It's like, I should be outside, I can do this all winter type thing. And this was going on in my head for like 15, 20 minutes while I'm trying to watch this documentary. And it finally dawned on me that it's like, instead of enjoying this documentary right now, I am wasting my time thinking about what I could be doing. And once I got that mindset changed, I was able to just sit there, relax, and enjoy it, and I felt no guilt or anything, from that point forward. So it's so critical that we learn to do this. In fact, there's methods you could do to get into the present moment. One of the things I love to do, nature, by the way, is like the biggest benefit you could possibly find yourself in. If you can get out into nature, you tend to automatically almost fall into the present moment. But there's a thing called tree therapy, where I'll literally be walking through the woods and I'll put my hand on a tree bark and I'll just like look at the leaves and listen to the wind and the animals that are kind of running around me, or whatever the case. Whether you're sitting at home, you start petting your dog, those type of things force you out of the future and out of the past and into the present. And here's one of the best lines I've heard as far as, when you think about the future, it often involves worry, okay? So when you worry about something and it doesn't happen, you just spent all this negative energy and all this time worrying about something that didn't even happen. So you went through it for nothing. But even more importantly, if you worry about something and it does happen, you lived through it twice. So what's the point? Get your head out of that and into the present moment. And a great way to do that is in meditation. I'm by no means an expert in meditation. It's something I want to get into more. I'm kind of ADD, so it's tough for me to sit there. But a lot of people beat themselves up when they first start trying meditation because they can't get themselves to really blank their mind out. They start thinking about things, and that's okay. You're making progress. You're making effort to meditate, and that's half the battle, especially in the beginning. So it's okay if 100 times or more you have to pull yourself back. Oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to be sitting here doing nothing. And it's okay to keep doing that, because over time you're going to find that becomes easier and easier and easier to do.
Bingo! I'm going to be the first heckler of the night. That's why it's called a practice.
Exactly.
Even people who do it all the time still call it a practice, because they keep practicing.
Exactly. And so that's why they have like mantras where you basically keep repeating the same word over and over again to help yourself keep your mind clear. Or there's I do moving meditation, which you can do like a yoga, which I'm not at all good at, so I don't do yoga, but I'll do like a slow dance where I'll put on some really mellow music, and I'll because just the moving helps me clear my head and not feel so much like my ADD's kind of taking over on me. So there's different ways to do it, but meditation, I can tell you there's so many statistics that talk about how beneficial this is for in our lives. If you can get into meditation, you are blessed, because it's absolutely huge. Why it matters. The reason it's so important to try to enlighten yourself above and beyond this life that we live in is because it brings gratitude like you wouldn't believe. And I can tell you this from my personal experience. I struggled big time, like a lot of us do. I was suicidal at one point in my life. And it's amazing how once you understand the perspective that we're here to experience this life. We're really here to love, to enjoy, to be in relationships, and I'm not talking necessarily romantic, friendships, whatever. The experiences, whether they're good or bad, in fact, the bad ones are really the ones we learn from. Everybody wants to have all the good experiences, which are great, but without the bad experiences, you're not learning anything. And another quick example, I pulled my back out here about a week ago, and I woke up Saturday morning and my back was hurting so bad I really struggled to get out of bed. And my first thought was like, this sucks, I'm gonna be stuck on the couch all day today, it's gonna ruin this nice day, you know, for these things I wanted to get done. And then it dawned on me that it's like, wait a minute, this experience is something that I'm not gonna get in the afterlife. I'm here to experience the good and the bad. So even though it hurt like hell, I was like forcing myself to kind of walk around the house like, wow, this is crazy. And within an hour, I'm like, I wonder if I could go out for a walk and do this now, you know? It changed my entire perspective, which changed my entire day. I ended up getting together with some friends like I had originally planned on, and you know, I didn't let it get to me. So a better life awaits you, and this is I'm telling you from personal experience, that the more you can learn about a lot of these things that aren't in our everyday life, and living in the grind and dealing with all the emotional crap that comes up, instead of getting angry about it. You know, one story that was told me a long time ago was about somebody that was coming to work and their tire went flat. And they were so upset, it ruined their whole day type of thing. And they realized that, you know, had I looked at that experience in a different way, where thank God I didn't get in an accident when that happened, or thank God I was only going 20 miles an hour so I didn't lose control of my car type of thing. And this is only gonna be like an hour of my time to get this fixed and move on with my life. That's what it's all about, is realizing that we're here for the experience. Accept the experience with open arms. Open your mind to the probability or the possibility that things are a lot different than we can, again, see, taste, touch, smell, feel. And you're gonna find that it's absolutely awesome. Website on the bottom, you can't really see it all that great, I'm sure, but it's www.ajourneytoenlightenment.com. A friend of mine, Leon, and I are doing a podcast. We've got 3 of them loaded on there so far. We're gonna have more in the future, so keep your eyes open for that. But again, I'm trying to keep this limited time-wise, so there's a whole lot more I know that I could talk to people about, so if you're interested, feel free to reach out or whatever, and I thank you all. Any questions?
What are some of the things on that podcast? What are some of those episodes about?
So we did one episode on personality types, which is really interesting. Brought in a friend of mine, Chris Borgert, who specializes in personality types, and that's really interesting. It amazes me to this day that people don't spend more time learning their personality type, because it affects the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the friends you hang out with, probably the person that you end up being with, you know, as far as your partner. I mean, there's so many things that are affected by your personality type, and people don't even know what it is, and it's crazy to me. Another one we did was on natural healing, using your mind to heal, which is awesome. And then the third one was on mass psychosis, which is a concern of mine of what the world's kind of going into right now with the political division and things that are going on. So all 3 are worth listening to, in my opinion, for sure. Any other questions? Yes?
Have you read the book, The Mystic's Gift?
I have not.
I just finished it. If someone is interested in following this type of pathway, it's a very short novel written by a man named Skip Johnson, who writes a lot of self-help, kind of enlightenment type books. And it was about the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi.
Ah,
And things like enlightenment, precision in your life, monitoring how you think and speak. You know, instead of being negative, frame things in a more positive light. It was very, very well written, very easy to understand.
awesome, yeah, I will check that out, because I love those type of things, obviously. Anybody else? Well, thank you all very much then.